When you think about fighting climate change, what comes to mind? Probably scientists, right? Or maybe policymakers? But what if one of the biggest levers for change is actually the stock market? Today, we're going to crack open the Singapore Exchange's brand new sustainability report to see how the world of finance is being rewired to tackle our planet's biggest challenge.
So right at the start, the report lays out the world we're living in, and it's pretty intense. It's not just about the climate getting hotter, it's about the economy being all over the place, politics shifting under our feet, and just deep disagreements on what to do next. This is the messy, complicated reality that any big organization has to deal with right now.
So that brings us to the big question, right? In a world this chaotic, what can a stock exchange actually do? I mean, you probably think of it as just a place to buy and sell stocks. Kind of seems a million miles away from melting ice caps, doesn't it? But what if it's one of the most powerful tools we have? Let's find out.
Okay, so to deal with all this complexity, SGX isn't just trying one thing. Nope, they've built this four-sided strategy. Think of it like a plan to attack the problem from every single angle.
And here they are, those four core pillars. They're looking at themselves as a company, what they can do as a business, their power as a regulator, and finally, their role in the wider financial ecosystem. It's this really complete framework for a super complex problem. Let's break each one down.
Okay, first up, leading by example. It makes sense, right? Before you can tell thousands of other companies to get their act together, you've got to get your own house in order. It's all about walking the talk.
And look, this isn't just some vague promise. They have a really detailed plan. They're shooting for net zero by 2050, and they've got a hard target to slash their electricity emissions by 2031. But what really stood out to me, they've put in almost 2,200 hours of sustainability training for their own staff. That tells you this isn't just a memo from the top. They're trying to bake this into their company culture.
All right, so they're cleaning up their own backyard. That's great. But their real power? That comes from shaping the entire market. And this is where we see them flexing their muscles as both a regulator and a business, which are really two sides of the same coin when you're trying to drive this kind of change.
Okay, this is huge. As the regulator, SGX basically writes the rulebook for the market. And the new rule is pretty simple. If you want your company to be listed on our exchange, you have to report your greenhouse gas emissions. You know the saying, you can't manage what you don't measure? Well, this just made measuring mandatory for thousands of companies.
Now, they're not just asking for any old report. They're making companies use this new global standard. It's a mouthful, IFRS SDS. But don't worry about the acronym. Just think of it like a universal instruction manual for climate reporting. For the very first time, this lets investors compare the climate impact of a company in Singapore with one in London or New York, because everyone's playing by the same rules. It's all about creating a level playing field of information.
And this is what I find so smart about their approach. They're not just dropping this big new rulebook on companies and walking away. They actually helped create this guide, like a how-to manual, to show companies exactly what a good report looks like. So they're being both the rulemaker and the coach.
But rules are only half the battle. As a business, SGX also has to create the actual financial products that let money flow to green solutions. This is where they switch hats from being the referee to being a player on the field, creating the tools investors need.
Okay, check out this number, 133%. What on earth could that be?
That is the year-on-year growth in cash flowing into their sustainability-themed ETFs. You know those baskets of stocks you can buy. And that fund now totals $2.2 billion. That kind of explosive growth is a massive signal. It's the market screaming that investors are desperate for ways to put their money to work on climate action.
And they're meeting that demand with some really cool, innovative tools. Products like these Climate Action Index futures, which basically let big investors bet on the future of climate-friendly companies, are a game changer. It helps them sync up their giant portfolios with climate solutions. In short, they're building the financial plumbing that connects all that investor money to real-world corporate action.
All right, that brings us to the fourth and final pillar, the ecosystem. SGX gets it. Climate change is a global beast, and no single stock exchange, no matter how big, can slay it alone. This whole part is about teamwork.
And they are not just talking the talk, they are in the room where it happens. Here on the left, you see them hosting a major global sustainability conference for other exchanges. And on the right, that's their involvement with GFANZ, which is this massive global alliance of financial giants. They're not just participating, they're helping to steer the global conversation.
And it goes even deeper than that.
They're actually hosting the Asia-Pacific office for that global alliance I just mentioned. They're linking up with other exchanges across Southeast Asia to build a shared data system. And they're co-chairing groups that are designing the next generation of investment indexes. They're not just in the network, they're actively weaving it together.
So we've walked through all 4 pillars. Let's just pull back for a second and look at the big picture. Why does all of this matter?
Here's the bottom line. The whole idea of what a stock exchange is changing. It's not just a passive platform anymore, just a place where trades happen. It's becoming an active architect, using its unique power to actually design and build a more sustainable economy.
And their own words from the report really drive this home. They're not talking about small tweaks. They're aiming for transformative change. That's a huge statement of intent. It shows just how seriously they're taking this new role.
And that really leaves us with this final big question. The SGX strategy is one powerful answer, but as we all face these huge global challenges, it makes you think, doesn't it? What role should finance play in shaping the world we live in?